The White House walked back, changed, took away, whatever you want to call it, President Biden's big foreign policy statement today. He stood tall and said the U.S. would offer military support to Taiwan if China invaded. Take a listen.
You didn't want to get involved in the Ukraine conflict militarily for obvious reasons. Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made.
Well, now all of a sudden you can begin checking out the definition of willing, involved, militarily, defend, on and on. Some of the media are writing off his statements as a gaffe, but it's not the first time he has said exactly the same thing. Several times, in fact, Mr. Biden made similar comments in the past. Take a listen.
So are you saying that the United States would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked?
Yes, we have a commitment to do that.
We support the Taiwan Act, and that's it. It's independence. It makes its own decisions.
The president also promised a response in an interview with ABC back in August. To be fair, the policy states the United States would give Taiwan whatever it needs to protect itself, kind of like what we're doing with Ukraine. But for whatever reason, the White House walked back the commander-in-chief's comments. An official statement said our policy has not changed. The president reiterated our one China policy and our commitment to peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. He also reiterated our commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to provide Taiwan with the military means to defend itself. As you might have guessed, the Chinese, well, they're a little angry. Watch the subtitles.
台湾问题纯属中国内政，不容任何外部势力干涉。在涉及中国主权和领土完整等核心利益问题上，中方没有任何妥协退让余地。
Internal affairs, what the Chinese call it, and they say we're playing with fire. Here's why. This has been a democratic enclave since the 1940s. China has wanted it back. It's a little different than Ukraine, right? Because you've got 100 miles of water here, the Straits of Taiwan, that are some of the most militarized areas known to man. This is a little bit like an unsinkable aircraft carrier out here. In just 100 miles, the Chinese have been developing weapons specifically to try and overwhelm Taiwan's defense. And we'll just flip maps here and give you a little bit better idea of what we're talking about why it is so valuable. The Chinese have been building islands all here through the South China Sea. So they own this entire area and claim sovereignty of about 2/3 of the South China Sea. 2/3 of global marine traveled trade goes through here. Trillions and trillions of dollars every month of trade go through here and then up here. So any kind of conflict here totally changes the dynamic in the world economy. It would make Ukraine look like a distant memory. Also, in terms of how the Chinese have been testing the Taiwanese, they've been flying fighters all the way here into Taiwanese airspace to test their defenses and the like, scouting possible invasion routes. In fact, in the past month or so, the Chinese did a dress rehearsal here right before President Biden's trip. Capital city of Taipei, nice city, that's here at the north end of the island, 23 million people on the island. The infrastructure in Taiwan is modern. It's a developed nation, much more so than China. It's the United States' 8th largest trading partner and produces nearly $800 billion worth of goods and services each year, which may not really sound like much. But this chart shows that 63% of the world's computer chips come from Taiwan, including 90% of advanced chips. Those goes into everything. Weapons systems, CAT scans for healthcare, cars, computers, smartphones, TVs, you name it. Put everything else aside. An invasion of Taiwan would make the empty shelves crisis and the rising prices crisis over the last 2 years look like a distant and lovely memory. Current inflation would seem like a mere blip. And while the media and White House are downplaying the president's comments today, his top military advisor appeared to really say that the United States might be ready for war.
There's a variety of contingency plans that we hold. All of them are highly classified.
Translation. There are several plans in place should China invade. It would be malpractice for the military not to have an option for the president. Gordon Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China and the Great U.S.-China Tech War, is with us now. All right, Gordon, you've listened to presidents over and over and over say this in different parts of the one China policy, the Taiwan statements. Was what President Biden said today, A, different, and B, a gaffe or a telegraph?
Actually, I think it was a telegraph. As you point out, this is the third time that he's said this in important settings, to George Stephanopoulos, to Anderson Cooper, and today with the Japanese Prime Minister. The President of the United States is the one who is charged with making foreign policy, and he's the only person. And so when you have White House officials undermine him, which they've done all three times, it really is a question of subversion, not only of the president, but also of the Constitution. This is actually very serious when you start to think about the implications, especially because the Chinese look at this disarray and think, well, maybe the Biden administration is not capable of defending Taiwan, and maybe it's not even capable of defending itself.
Just to flip it around, say for a minute now that all the press is talking about this in Taiwan. We're not talking about high gas prices and the domestic problems for the president. But if you're the White House, is this not a way to sort of telegraph to the Chinese, hey, you better watch out because we'll do more for Taiwan than we did for Ukraine, but at the same time give the president a little bit of cover here to say, no, we didn't change the policy. It keeps China from having an excuse to go crazy, but at the same time speaks softly and offers a big stick.
Well, President Trump famously used unpredictability to keep adversaries off balance, but this doesn't really feel like this. This feels like disarray and disorganization in the American foreign policy establishment. So I do worry about what our adversaries think about this. You know, the president needs to enforce message discipline. And the president, he could, says,
let me flip this around.
I'm changing American foreign policy.
Right, but if President Biden said this today, and the White House said, President's the commander-in-chief, he speaks for himself, you can make any decision you want. Would that not antagonize China to the point that they might be willing to use force or retaliate in some other way? Wouldn't Xi Jinping have to do that?
Well, Xi Jinping would be antagonized, but he's antagonized over everything. What this would do is it shows the United States is not afraid of China. Just before Biden went on this trip, Beijing intimidated the State Department into effectively backing down and really showed the world that it was China that was determining American foreign policy on Taiwan. This was really bad. And I think this is, when you think about it, Biden actually had to say something to assert American interests. The most dangerous thing for the United States right now is to let the Chinese think that they can do what they want. So, yes, they would be antagonized, Leland, but I think we have to do that given the situation we are now in.
We've learned from Ukraine, and probably the Chinese have learned from Ukraine as well, in terms of being able to defend what was thought to be the indefensible, how poor large armies can be when they're on the offense and trying to invade and the like. The one thing we also learned is that oftentimes providing more weapons is helpful, and we did not do that to Ukraine in the beginning. They didn't get Harpoon anti-ship missiles. They didn't get a large supply of U.S. drones and the like. Is it different with Taiwan? Do they have what they need right now, or would that also be part of what President Biden could change in terms of policy if he wanted to?
Yeah, I don't think Taiwan has what it really needs. And this is part of Taiwan's fault. You have a lot of generals and admirals buying things that they think are shining and new. And it's also part of the United States. It's our fault as well because we haven't worked closely enough with Taiwan. We've delayed arms sales, all the rest of it. Taiwan needs cruise missiles that could hold China hostage. And I also think that they need submarines. And Taiwan right now sort of has cruise missiles, but not nearly long range enough to make the Chinese sit up and take notice.
All right, Gordon, thank you. Thank you. It seems as though this feels like it's going to start snowballing just a little bit in terms of what the Chinese have said and what the Americans have said as well. So stay close, as we say, my friend. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Leland.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.